Thank you for checking out FileCOPA. In this video we'll show you just how simple it is to install the FileCOPA FTP server software and configure it for FTP, SFTP and SSL FTPS connections. As you can see, we've downloaded the FileCOPA installer and here it is on our desktop. This is a Windows 7 machine. First we'll double-click the installer and click past the first page. As we do with all software, we'll read carefully through the license agreement and then click the Accept button. We'll accept the default installation folder and program folder. Next, the installer will ask us where we want our default FTP home directory to be. This will be where each user's root folder will be placed as you create new users. Note that this is just the default location. You can give a user a root folder anywhere on your file system, but if you're going to have lots of users, keeping them together can make your administration much easier. Of course, we'll want an icon on our desktop. Review the settings, and off it goes. That's it. FileCOPA is now installed and everything we need for anonymous FTP is already configured. Let's close the installer and open the FileCOPA controller. As this is in evaluation mode, we get to sit here for 10 seconds and admire the copyright. The delay is not present once the product has been registered. Also note that this is just the controller. The controller does not need to be running for FileCOPA to be working. FileCOPA itself is installed as a system service. You do not even need to be logged into Windows for FileCOPA to be running and responding to requests. Let's close the What's New help pop-up. This will only show up the first time you run the controller. It will also show up if you update to a newer version to highlight what has changed. You can always call it back by going to the Help menu and selecting What's New. Note also that FileCOPA has an extensive help file that explains how to use most features in the product. At this point, let's switch to another machine. I'm going to use XP on this machine so that you can see that it is a different machine. I've already got the FileZilla FTP client installed on this machine, so let's start it up. I'm going to go to the Site Manager and add a new site to connect to our freshly installed FileCOPA FTP server. We'll create a name, My FileCOPA. Enter the host address. Note that I'm showing this on our internal network. If you were testing this on your actual internet-connected machine server, you would use your real IP address or DNS name for this. If your machine is behind a router, you will also need to configure your router to forward ports into your local network. There is another video that demonstrates how to do this with a common home-style router on our website. Everything else is good as it defaults, so let's press Connect. There we go. We're connected to our server and we can see the incoming folder. Let's upload something just to prove it works. We'll switch into the incoming folder because this is the anonymous user and that is the only place Anonymous can upload to. And we'll upload the FileCOPA installer. There, an FTP connection, and all we did was install the product. Now, while we're still in FileZilla, let's just see an SFTP connection and an SSL connection. Remember, we've done nothing in FileCOPA itself at this point except install it. File, Site Manager, New Site, FileCOPA SFTP, Host Details, change the protocol to SFTP, press Connect. FileZilla pops up to ask us to verify the SFTP host key, and it shows you the fingerprint. You can also see this fingerprint in the FileCOPA controller, and you can send it to your users so they can be sure they are connecting securely to your server. Acknowledge that this is correct, and now we're connected to FileCOPA with SFTP. Now we'll connect with SSL. Again, File, Site Manager, New Site, FileCOPA SSL, Host Details, change the encryption type to explicit FTP over TLS. FileCOPA will work with either, but we'll just show explicit mode here as it's the more common. Press connect, then up pops the FileCOPA self-signed certificate. You can see the common name is set to FileCOPA FTP server. If you have a real SSL certificate, you can of course install this into FileCOPA and have it use that instead. But for most users, the self-signed certificate will provide a perfectly adequate secure connection. Acknowledge the certificate and there you go. Now we're connected to FileCOPA FTP server with SSL encryption. Again, we've so far done nothing in FileCOPA. It pre-configured itself for all this during installation. Let's go back to the FileCOPA controller and I'll show you a few features to help you get going. First, we'll click the SSH tab. There is the SFTP key fingerprint we mentioned previously. Also, the full public key is displayed, if your users need to send this to them instead of the fingerprint. You'll also notice that various ciphers can be enabled and disabled. If you are running a highly secure site, you may need to lock down to some specific ciphers. All you need to do is change the status and hit the apply button. Check out the SSL tab too. Again, ciphers can be enabled or disabled, and the various different SSL levels can be enabled and disabled here. For example, if you wish to be PCI compliant, you will need to disable SSL version 2 and some of the weaker DES ciphers. If you have a real SSL certificate, then this is where you can install it. FileCOPA can work with certificates in various different formats to relieve you of the headache of trying to convert them to the required format. If you've ever installed an SSL certificate in other software, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about when I say that this is normally a headache. But FileCOPA can take your certificate as a key CRT PEM format file pair, or as a PFX PKCS12 format file, or even directly from the Windows Certificate Store. Let's take a look at adding users. Before we add a new user, let's just visit the default anonymous user. Right on the users page, you can see that this user's root folder is c:/FileCOPA anonymous. Remember when FileCOPA asked us the default folder during install? If we open the anonymous user's record by double-clicking it, you can see that we can disable the user without having to remove it. You may wish to disable the anonymous user if you don't want anonymous users connecting to your system. Also take a look at the Directory Access tab. Here you can see how we can limit a user to only upload into certain folders. You'll see that the anonymous user's root folder has read and list rights, whereas the incoming subfolder has write and list rights. So in the root, the user can see the files that are there and download them, but cannot upload anything. In the incoming folder, they can see the files that are there and can upload new files, but cannot download anything. You can of course change these rights for the anonymous user if you wish. Now let's add a new user. Close the anonymous user's record and click the Add button. Enter a username for the new user. Press the Tab key to move to the next field, and FileCOPA will pop up the following message. This is again where the default root folder comes into play. FileCOPA is asking us if we want to create this user's default home directory in that folder. Let's say yes, as we like to keep all our users' folders together. Give this user a password and press OK. Now you will see our new user on the users list. Switch back to our second machine and let's modify our FTP connection to use this new user rather than the default user. Press connect, and there we are. We're now logged in with our new user. Before we leave this video, there's just one other thing I'd like to point out in the FileCOPA controller. Notice on the Who tab, it shows us who is currently connected and where they are connected from. This page is live and you can see exactly what is happening with all your connected users. Thank you for checking out the FileCOPA FTP server. Now press the Download Now button on our website and install your own copy. If you have any questions, please feel free to email our support department on support@filecopa.com or use the support form on our webpage.